unusual, isn't it? Has anybody noticed that things are being shaken up a little bit? But in some ways, it's good, but in other ways, it's a little scary. I appreciate Scott inviting me to be a part of this morning. My name is Jim Stoppenhagen. Most of you know me from years past. I was looking back on the number of times I've been here. I think it's been 4 or 5. And I look back also to make sure that I'm not repeating the message that I gave some other time, and I don't think that I am. This morning, I'm going to talk a little bit about faith. Yes. I hear an amen. I hope that was an amen. I do have some sheets, some Bible verses on it. Would you help me pass those out over there? Thanks. Would you help me and pass those up? Don't worry, I'm not going to go in depth to all of these. There's quite a few there. I won't be here past 2 or 3 o'clock, so don't worry. That's probably not. Except for me and the video camera. You know, there's a lot of predictions about what's going to be happening in the future. And some people say that we're almost through it. If you're a fan of the President of the United States, you're probably thinking it's all going to go away soon. For other people, if you're listening closely, they're saying we're on the edge. Things are only going to get worse in the next few weeks, next few months. Some people are saying that we will never recover from this. America will never be the same again. Our lives will never be the same again. You know, throughout history, if you look at history, throughout history, there have been cultures, there's been nations that were doing really good, and then all of a sudden something happened and they fell. In fact, almost every nation, every great nation in the history of the world experienced prosperity for a long time, protection, and then all of a sudden things started crumbling. We could be on the edge of that. My wife and I travel overseas quite a bit to South Africa. We lived in the Dominican Republic for a year. And my wife lived in Haiti for a while, and Mexico for a while. And we know that there's something special about this country, especially at this time in the history of our country. We've been very prosperous. We've been very protected. For those of us, even as old as I am, maybe a little bit older, we have seen probably the longest length of time of prosperity that a nation has ever experienced in the last 50, 60 years. Our kids have grown up, our grandkids are growing up in a country that has been very predictable. You go to a third world country, and one thing you realize is that America has been very, very special. We've had our flaws, we've had our stumblings, we recovered from most of those, or in the process of recovering. Appreciate the fact that in some ways our nation is better now than it was 50 years ago. We still have ways to go in some areas, I realize that. But in many ways, we could be on the precipice of something that could be very devastating. So I want to say this morning, one thing. Strengthen your faith in God. Because when things shake, sometimes the only thing that you can rely on is your faith in the Lord and what He's doing and what He's able to do in our lives. And sometimes what happens isn't necessarily what we would prefer, but in every situation, if we trust God, we can maintain our peace and our joy. So many times we put our peace and joy, we rely on certain things in life. Maybe it is our job. Maybe it is our home. Maybe it's our family. Maybe it's our ability to go to the store without a mask, all right? It's predictability. It's being able to go to the store and find everything you want. But that doesn't always happen around the world, and it might not be happening in the near future. So today I want to encourage you to do one thing. Put your faith in God. So what is faith? Faith is what or who we put our trust in. Our trust in something that we can trust so much, and our confidence is so much in that no matter what happens, we're not too shaken. All right? We're going to talk a little bit about trust today and faith, and I was wondering if there's somebody here that would say, yes, there's somebody else in this group that you really trust. You really trust somebody else. Is there anybody here that trusts me? Anybody? One person.
Well, you're up there speaking.
Yeah. You trust me? Do you? Could I use you as a?
I don't know.
Come on.
You said you trusted in.
That's right. Come on up here.
Come on up there.
I have in this container some candy.
Goodness.
If you like candy.
Oh, this.
Oh, in this one, I have a trap. This is no ordinary trap. This is a South African rat trap. Watch out. Hold your ears.
Whoa.
Whoa. That's mean, huh?
Maria's
All right.
gonna run.
Okay, if you would look that way just for a minute. Reset this. Ow! Ow! Oh! Are you all right? Yeah, it's okay. Now, you say you trust me. All right, look this way. Whoa. Oh, wait just a minute. You can't see through there, can you? Okay. All right. Do you trust me? All right. Put your hand in there and get some candy. Oh, no, not sure.
Way to go, Les.
Well, I wasn't supposed to grab all
You
of
want to
them.
grab? No, you can have. Oh, wait just a minute. I got one more for you.
Oh.
Look that way. Mix things up a little bit. Okay, now look at me. Now, choose whichever one you want.
Choose whichever one.
Yeah. Say! Oh. You do trust me. How'd you know that?
I don't know.
All right.
You probably heard the sounds.
You earned it.
Just the whole thing.
All right, he trusted me. That's trust. That's confidence in who I am. Confidence that I would not do anything that would hurt him. Confidence that my life is full of candy and not rat traps. That's so mean looking. I just had to buy that. Of course, we did have some mice in South Africa that I had to deal with.
Chop a mouse right in half.
That would, it doesn't do a rat any favor. They do not get away from that. I have not used that still water. We haven't had to. The faith is who we put our trust in, or our confidence in. I was thinking about a bird. A bird can fly and land on a branch, and the branch could give way. Is a bird going to be concerned about that? No. Why? Because his confidence is in his wings. He just takes wings and takes off for another branch. God has called us to have confidence, not in our circumstances, not in the branches, not where we land, but in who He is. A few years ago, in 2008, when the stock market crashed, you know what happened to a lot of the stock market dealers, what do you call them, bankers and brokers on Wall Street? Many of them committed suicide. Why? because their confidence wasn't in God, it was in their ability to make money and to share wealth with others. We have to put our confidence in something. It's our confidence in something to protect us, to provide for us, to guide us. Let's look at these verses. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them in depth, but I would hope that you would take this and use it not only as an example of, not only a Bible study on faith, but maybe more importantly, that it would encourage you to spend time in the Word. Because as we talk this morning, I'm going to encourage you to do one thing: spend time in the Word. You got to spend time in the Word. It's more than just fake news on TV. All right, it's more than fake news in the newspaper. There are lies that are permeating our culture, and those lies have increased in the last few years. As a matter of fact, I got the feeling that part of the problem that's going on throughout our world right now is because we have brought up our kids, we have allowed our kids to be brought up on a pack of lies. Those pack of lies are not only shown in the media, those pack of lies are not only shown in social media, those pack of lies are also shown in our universities. Unfortunately, the biggest universities in the United States right now are pumping out kids that do not believe in God. They're pumping out kids that maybe they believed in God when they entered university. When they got out, they no longer believed in who God is. Not only that, but they're believing that there's something totally wrong with even America, and that America is not the great country that it has been. Now, like I said before, we still have some things that we need to deal with, and I realize that. And I won't get too much into that. But just understand that I understand that there are still a lot of things that we in America, especially certain individuals and certain organizations, need to deal with issues within their ranks. John 6:29, it's not in here, but it's one of my favorite verses. It says this: this is what God requires. Jesus is saying this. This is what God requires. Anybody interested in that? Yeah. To trust in the one that He sent. To trust in the one. To have faith in, to believe in the one that He sent. Who is it that God sent? His name is Jesus. God has called us. This is our work. To trust in Him. So what does faith do? We're going to start on these verses. Hebrews 11:6. Without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to Him must believe that He exists and that He rewards those who earnestly seek Him. Isn't that an amazing verse? It's one of my favorite. And without faith, it's impossible to please God. So when we have faith in Him, it actually pleases Him. Please the Father in heaven. Can you believe that we have the opportunity to please the Creator of the universe? We have the power to move emotionally the God of the universe. When we please Him, it brings Him pleasure. He likes it. He loves it. He enjoys it. We have that ability to bring enjoyment into the throne room. Because anyone who comes to Him, look at that, comes to Him, we have to come to Him. God has called us to come to Him. Are we chosen? I believe we are. But God has chosen us to come to Him. But we choose whether we go. I don't know about you guys, but I want to go. I want to go deeper. As a matter of fact, I want to say that this study is not just for you guys. Actually, it's for me. So you guys are just listening to the things that I've learned over the last few days of studying, and that's this. So I want to go deeper in Him. I want to know Him more. There's more of Him to know. There's a deeper level of trust that I can have for Him. And especially in these days, I want that. Especially in the days coming, I'm going to need it. I need a deeper faith. I need a deeper trust in Him. I realize that I need to trust Him more, because sometimes things don't go well at Stillwater. And you know what happens? I lose my peace and my joy. And I go, phew. My wife comes along and says, Jim? And I go, oh yeah. She reminds me. The other day, my wife got up and she was discouraged because of some things in our lives and what's been happening. And I reminded her, our trust is in the Lord. And she goes, yes. In fact, she posted the other day on Facebook, and she tagged me, so you can go to Jim Stoppenhagen Facebook if you want. Don't do it now, though. I know some of you might be tempted. Like, oh yeah, here's my chance. All right. But we were getting the camp ready for a big retreat. We had a big retreat this last weekend. They came in Thursday and left yesterday afternoon. We did a lot of team building activities. This is for a church up in Niles, Michigan. They came to brought in about 25 kids. And it was a great retreat, but getting ready for it took a lot of work. You know, cleaning and mowing and building, team building activities. And in the midst of it, I was outside the lodge, and Elaine was in the lodge cleaning. The windows were open. She turned on some worship music. I got on my cell phone, texted her, crank it up. So our whole camp was filled with worship music, and all of a sudden the atmosphere of the place changed. It changes our hearts. When we read the word, when we spend time in worship, when we come into presence, it changes our hearts. It increases our faith. It gives us a new perspective. He rewards those who earnestly seek him. Earnestly. Woo! That's not lightly, that's not slightly, that's not just going to church on Sunday. That is earnestly seeking him. I know Alan and I have had some discussions. He wants to know the truth, and he's seeking. Last time I talked to him, last time I saw him, I think it was at Stillwater. I had some books that I hadn't used for years because I do most of my studying now on my cell phone, but he doesn't do studies on cell phones and computers, so I gave him all of my reference books. I want to encourage you to get reference books. I want to encourage you, if you got a cell phone or if you got access to the internet, there are so many good apps right now that you can do studies. Like I looked up some Greek words, so quickly. In fact, I was looking for something just a minute ago. There's apps that will take you right to the Greek. I looked up trust this morning. It's the Greek is P-I-S-T-I-S, pistis. That doesn't sound like a great name for trust, but that's Greek, all right? I don't know where they got it, but that's Greek for trust. I want to encourage you guys to spend time in the Word, study. Hebrews 10:22, let us draw near to God with a sincere heart, with a full assurance that faith brings. What does faith do for us? It brings us assurance. It brings us trust. We learn to trust God as we draw near to him. Hebrews 11:1, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Wow. Sometimes we don't see what's going on. Sometimes we don't see. Oh, just kidding. I want to make sure you guys are awake. Oh. Was that funny? Thank you. I don't think she was laughing at me. James 5:15, the prayer offered in faith will make the sick well, and the Lord will raise them up. If they have sinned, they will be forgiven. Okay, another thing that faith does. Ephesians 3:12, God or Christ dwells in our heart. How? Through faith. As we build our faith, we realize more and more that Jesus Christ is dwelling in our hearts. Isn't that an amazing thought? Does anybody here come to the total realization that Jesus Christ not only wants to dwell in us, but once we become a Christian, he actually does? What would happen if we entered totally into that faith, that trust? And I got the feeling that that's one of the reasons that we are not seeing the miracles today. Jesus said that signs and wonders will follow those who believe. He said, greater things you'll do than what I'm doing. You know something? I got to confess something. I'm not doing those things. There's been times that I prayed for people and they were healed, but not on like, okay, God, you want me to do that? Okay, God told me to pray for you and you'll be healed. They're healed. Okay? That doesn't happen in my life yet. And the reason is my faith isn't strong enough. And this morning I want to tell you, I want a stronger faith. Ephesians 6:16, in addition to this, take up the shield of faith, which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil. That's part of the armor of God, which is belt of truth, breastplate of righteousness, sword of the Spirit, shield of faith, helmet of salvation, and the feet fitted with the shoes that are ready to take the gospel with you. All right? I'm going to encourage you to put on that armor every day. And part of that armor is building up your faith. When you have faith strong enough, and the enemy comes to you and starts pointing a finger at you and go, look look who you are. Who do you think you are? You'll never succeed. You ain't nothing. What your parents did to you hurt you forever. How you lost that job back in '85, you'll never succeed. You know, they point he points that ugly finger at us and accuses us. But with the shield of faith, all right, it shields you from the fiery darts of the enemy. I sometimes use this analogy. It's like the enemy is going, he's got a little dart and he lights it. And he gets burning. And then he takes it and throws at us. And we feel those darts of accusations. But if we have the shield of faith, boing, it bounces off. The breastplate of righteousness. I love the breastplate of righteousness. It protects your heart. The breastplate of righteousness protects your heart because if you truly believe, if you really have faith in the fact that God has given you his righteousness, which the Bible says he has. If we have his righteousness, the enemy can't bring any accusations against you because you have Christ's righteousness. And the only way that you really know that you have Christ's righteousness is that you know that your sinful nature was nailed to the cross, and you were buried with Christ, and now he is resurrected, not only from the grave, but he also resurrected inside of me, and I have his righteousness. And if Satan comes and accuses me, I can say, wait, you're accusing a dead man. That sinful nature is what you're accusing, because he can't bring accusations against Jesus. And if I have Jesus living inside of me, if I'm living in his righteousness, wow, that takes faith. I want total faith in that area. How do we put our faith on? What do we do? What does that say? What do we put our faith on? Okay, 1 Corinthians 2:5. So that our faith might not rest on human wisdom, but on God's power. That's what we put our faith on. Examples of faith and what was gained. I love the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Is there anybody in this room, underneath this canopy, that really love what Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego said to Nebuchadnezzar? It's one of my favorite. Out of the Old Testament, at least. It's one of my favorite. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were Hebrew lads. King Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonians, conquered Israel, brought a whole bunch of, not a whole bunch, but a few of the most brightest men back, and he was training them to serve him. And there were some people underneath King Nebuchadnezzar that were very jealous of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, as well as Daniel. And they had a ploy. They contrived a plan. They went to the king and said, hey, listen, why don't you make this gold statue 90 feet long or tall, and then require everybody to bow down to that statue? King Nebuchadnezzar said, that's a great idea. All right. So he had this 90 foot. That's as tall as the tallest tree. Those trees out there are probably 90 foot. Can you imagine a gold statue 90 foot tall? Then he required everybody in the nation to bow down to it. So the musical instruments came on. Everybody bowed down, except for 3 guys in the back. Guess what their names were? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They stood. They were unwilling to bow down. Why? Because they trusted God. King Nebuchadnezzar got really ticked off. And he said, come here, guys. I'll give you one more chance. Music play. Did they bow down? No. What did they say to King Nebuchadnezzar? Here it is. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it. I love this. And he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. course, you know the story. They were thrown in the fire. King Nebuchadnezzar said, "What? Did we not throw 3 men in there? But aren't there 4 men in there? And one looks like the Son of God." Some people believe, and I do not doubt it, that that was actually the incarnate Jesus Christ that came and stood in fire with those 3 guys. Wow. Could you imagine? King Nebuchadnezzar looked in there and says, "Wait, come on out." And they came out. The Bible says that their clothes were not burnt, their hair was not singed, and they didn't even smell like smoke. And he said this, "Praise be to the God of Shadrach." Listen, look at that. Look what happens when you're obedient and you trust God. All of a sudden, other people around you will go, "Wow, that person really trusts God." Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and rescued his servants. They trusted in him and defied the king's command, and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any God except their own. How many in this room say, "I am willing to give up everything to serve God"? And I got the feeling that in the next few months, there's a possibility that many of us will be called to choose. So I want to encourage you, build your faith. Matthew 9. Some men brought Jesus to Jesus. A man that was sick, a friend. Jesus saw their faith. He said to the man, "Take heart, son, your sins are forgiven." Why? Because Jesus saw the faith of the friends. Matthew 9:22. The woman that was bleeding for 12 years, she pushed through the crowd just so that she could touch the hem of the garment of Jesus. She was healed. Jesus says, "Take heart, your faith has healed you." Matthew 14:29. This is great. I love this. Peter and the disciples were out on the boat. Jesus comes passing by. A lot of the disciples said, "What? Look at, there's a ghost." Peter said, "Oh, wait, Lord, if that's you, tell me to come to the water. Come on the water." Jesus said, come on. Jesus must have been very excited about that, because here's one of the disciples who was willing to trust him. Then Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water. All right. The next thing we're going to talk about is what happens when we don't trust the Lord. And I'm going to start with that same verse. He was afraid. He walked on the water and came towards Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and beginning to sink. He cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. He said, "You of little faith." Little faith. That word is oligopistos. That means little faith. He had a little faith. What was the little faith? The little faith was he could walk on water. But he didn't have enough faith that when the wind hit him, that he didn't panic. That he did panic, okay? And sometimes the wind will test our faith. There's a wind, I think, coming. And the wind is going to test our faith. Many of you are here today because maybe some of you have a little faith. But God has called us to greater faith. And the wind is going to test it. And as you know, Peter went on and he had one of the greatest faiths that a person would ever have, a disciple would ever have. So don't give up when the wind blows. Okay, moving around. Mark 4:35. Similar situation. The disciples were in the boat again, but this time Jesus was in the boat. In fact, he's the one that said, "Hey, let's get in the boat. Let's go to the other side." So the disciples were going across the lake, and furious squall came up. Okay? They didn't have the weather radio. They didn't have radar. They couldn't see the storm coming, but they were in the middle of the lake. Wind started blowing, and they were very excited and concerned and scared. They went up to Jesus. "Jesus, Jesus, don't you care if we drown?" Jesus was like, "Oh, boy." Okay. He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down and was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" Those disciples had no faith. I often wonder, what is it that the disciples should have done if they had complete faith? they probably wouldn't panic. They probably would say, hey, what's the worst thing that could happen? We could die out here. What a great place to go into heaven, all right? I was with Jesus. I was being obedient. I was in the boat with Jesus. Wave hit. Jesus didn't calm the storm. I'm in heaven. Woo! Okay. They panic. Why? Because they're afraid for their life. They're afraid that their life will be taken. So many times our life is the thing that keeps us from greater faith. The things in this world, our protection, our pleasure, our provision, those things will often test our faith. If all of a sudden we can't go to the grocery store, all of a sudden we find out that we have COVID, whatever, we are faced with, are we really going to trust the Lord? So what's the solution? How do we get faith? Where does it come from? Hebrews 12:2. Number one, we got to look to Jesus. He is the author. What does that mean? He began it. He started. I don't know about you guys, but I was not the author of my faith. I remember I was going the other direction. God said, no, you're not going to enjoy life anymore in the direction you're going. I'm going to take away all the enjoyment that you're having and all that sin and everything else. And I'm going to draw you to me. He was the author. He said, come on, Jim. Come on. Get out of that drugs. Get out of that lifestyle. Come on. Oops, sorry.
You're good.
God authored a faith, and he's going to finish it. Okay? Paul said that he was on the road yet, still pursuing God. He hasn't achieved it yet, but one thing he knows is that he is pressing on towards a high goal. All right. Romans 12:3, we're almost done. By the grace given me, I say to everyone, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment in accordance with faith God has distributed to each of you. Woo! God is up there going, okay, Robin, here's a little bit for you, 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 here's some over here. Okay, he distributes it, but 1 Timothy 6:11 says, but you, man of God, flee from all this and pursue righteousness, pursue godliness, pursue faith, pursue love, pursue endurance, and pursue gentleness. He distributes it, but I believe that we are to pursue him. God has said, I'm going to give you a little bit of faith, see what you do with it. And sometimes I don't want to say this, that he definitely does this, but I sense that sometimes he gives you a little bit to see what he does, what you do with it. Like the parable of the man that distributed, was it 2 talents, 5 talents, 10 talents, to see what the person would do with it. I believe that if he's giving you a little faith, he's calling you to pursue him for greater faith. I encourage you to join me in pursuing him, not taking that little faith that he's given me and pursuing him for greater faith. James 2:5, has not God chosen those who are poor in the eyes of the world to be rich in faith and to inherit the kingdom he promised those who love him? I don't know about you guys, but I was not rich in the world when I came to know Jesus. In fact, I was desperate. I looked at my life now, in my mid-20s and go, man, I had nothing. But he chose me. If you feel like you're poor in the world, praise God. I find that as I travel the world, that the people that have the least are usually the ones with the greatest faith. The ones with the greatest amount of money, popularity, prestige, power, they have it so difficult to have great faith. God has called us, the poor in the world, to have great faith. 1 Thessalonians, but since we belong to the day, let us be sober, putting on faith and love as a breastplate. Once again, the breastplate of righteousness. Romans 10:17. Consequently, faith comes from hearing the message, and the message is heard through the word about Christ. This is a verse I'm going to come back to in just a little bit. I want to read Hebrews 12:1-3. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus. Wow, that was the theme of one of our summer camps, Fixing Our Eyes on Jesus. The pioneer, or the author, and perfecter, or the finisher of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. There's another verse I wanted to include, I didn't, and that is that God has called us, Jesus has called us to pick up our cross daily and follow him. What is taking up our cross? Taking up our cross is exactly what Jesus had to do when he went to the cross. What did Jesus give up when he went to the cross? He gave up everything. He gave up power, authority. In fact, he even told Pontius Pilate, he says, I can put on angels. He didn't. He gave that up. He gave up his prestige, his reputation. He gave up his provision, his pleasure. He gave it all up. He didn't have, when he went to the cross, he had to give it all up. And God has called us, if we want great faith, to take up our cross. And that means sometimes you have to choose in the morning between Facebook and Deuteronomy. All right, not Deuteronomy. Well, Deuteronomy 4, 5, 6 is one of my favorites. But maybe instead of Facebook, maybe choose Corinthians, 1 Corinthians. I don't know. Romans. Start with Romans, the book of John. Ephesians is good too. Did I tell you about Ephesians? Blows me away. I still haven't figured that out. Let's start with that. Romans 10:17, we'll back up. Consequently, faith comes out from hearing the message. That's not just on Sunday morning. And the message is heard through the word about Christ, or the word of Christ, or reading the word. In the weeks and months ahead, I don't know, maybe things will clear up and the virus will go away and everybody will go back to work. And 2021, the stock market was soar, and Iran will become Christian. But whether he does it does or not, I want to encourage you to strengthen your faith. Okay? But I got the feeling, I got a sense, I'm not a prophet, but I got the feeling that there's a chance that things are going to get rough in the weeks and months to come. Okay? So, strengthen your faith. Read the word. Read the word. Read the word. Memorize the word. Meditate on the word. Don't start necessarily in the Old Testament. Maybe start with the book of John. Maybe start with Romans. Maybe start with Ephesians. You can't go wrong with Ephesians. Galatians. Philippians. I was doing my study last night, and I brought out a verse out of Ephesians, and I copied and pasted it and sent it to my wife. And she goes, is that going to be a part of your message? No. Is that something you're telling somebody else? No. Well, why did you send it to me? I sent it to you because it's such an amazing verse. She goes, oh yeah, it is. It is. It had nothing to do with the study. Get excited about the Word of God and share it with others. Okay? Everybody say amen? Amen. Will you guys do it? Yeah. All right. I'm going to end with prayer. But I want to encourage you that you don't listen to my prayer necessarily. But you can't be one. But what would be a higher calling is if you would just stop. Go inside the kingdom of God, which is inside of us. The kingdom of God is in us. The Bible says we are now, our hearts are now the holy of holies. Wow. Jesus no longer dwells in buildings made by men. He dwells in hearts created by him. So I encourage you to go into your heart right now. If you are a Christian today, he dwells inside of you. Speak to him and say something like, Father, I ask you that you would strengthen my faith. So let's pray. Let's bow our heads. Father, I thank you for the message this morning. I thank you for this beautiful day that you've given us. I thank you for this body of believers. I thank you, Lord, that every time I come here and talk, that I am encouraged in you. I thank you for this message, for my life, and for anybody else that wants to be motivated by it. I pray, Father, that as I bow my head, pray that those that are here today would find it in their heart a deeper desire to seek you, to build their emotional strength, physical strength, their physical health, the power to do your will as they build their faith in you. I ask you, Father, that this message that I believe is from you would resonate in all of us the rest of the days ahead. Father, I come before you and pray right now for my own life and ask you, Lord, that you would strengthen my faith. You said that if we would ask for more faith, these disciples said, we believe, help our unbelief. Father, I ask you that you would turn my little faith, I have little faith, into great faith. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego faith. Stephen's faith as he proclaimed the gospel of Jesus Christ, as he was being threatened, being stoned to death, demonstrated faith. Father, give us all the faith that you gave to the apostles and the disciples in the first century, that they could go and walk in your spirit, and as your spirit says, pray for that man over there, I want to heal him. And they prayed, and they were healed. Give us that faith, Lord. More importantly, Father, give us a motivation to seek you with all of our heart, that as we do, that you would give us the faith that you have to offer us. I pray in Jesus' name.